Welcome, ladles and jelly spoons, to King's Bishop Teaches Chess. I'm Coach Daniel, your host, also known as King's Bishop here at chess.com, and I've been teaching beginners and intermediate players since 1984. One of the means by which we do that is by evaluating the games of great players. So each Friday night, we have Fischer Friday, and here tonight we have a short game between Miroslav, Filip, and Bobby Fischer. It was played at the Portoroz Interzonal on September 6th, 1958. It was the 19th round. And let me tell you something about Miroslav Filip. He was born in Prague on October 27th, 1928. In 1953, he was awarded the International Master title, and then 2 years later, he became a Grandmaster. Filip's career was highlighted by 3 Czechoslovakian championship victories and 2 tenures as a world championship candidate, one in 1956 and one in 1962. Filip retired to Czechoslovakia, and although he became inactive from international tournaments after 1981, he continued his lifelong passion as a chess commentator for various periodicals until his passing on April 27, 2009, at the age of 80. Now he begins this game with Retti's opening, and you may be familiar with Richard Reti, the Austro-Hungarian great player. He later became Czechoslovakian. He was born May 28, 1889, and passed away June 6, 1929, of scarlet fever. But he was not only a player, he was an author, a composer of endgame studies, and a theoretician. He was one of the top players in the world, Reti was, in the 1910s and 20s. And he began his career as a combinative classical player, favoring openings like the King's Gambit. But his style changed, and he became one of the principal proponents of hypermodernism. Of course, the benefit of Retti's opening is its flexibility and how it enables us to transpose either to an English, a queen's pawn, a king's pawn, or a king's Indian attack. Knight to f3, Retti's opening. Now, knight f6 from Bobby Fischer. g3, a king's Indian attack. g6, the symmetrical defense. b3, signaling that he will double fianchetto his bishops. Bishop g7 and bishop b2. Kingside castles, bishop g2 on d6. By the way, I should mention that bishop b2 becomes the Nimzo-Larsen variation, named for Aron Nimzovich and Bent Larsen, who favored Aron Nimzovich. Castles here, bishop g2, d6, d4 now transposes to Tartakover's defense. Savieli Tartakover, who lived from February 1887 to February 1956, was a Polish chess player. He was one of the inaugural recipients of the Grandmaster title when it was standardized in 1950, and Tartakover was also a leading journalist and author in the 1920s and 30s, noted for his witty remarks. Here, e5 is Przepiorka's variation, named for David Przepiorka. He lived from December 1880 to April of 1940, a Jewish-Polish player of the early 20th century who was the one to win the first ever Polish championship, sadly murdered in the Holocaust. Pawn takes pawn here, knight g4, now castles from Filip, knight c6 from Bobby Fischer, and queen's knight to d2. Marked as a mistake here by our annotator, and the book move, the annotator preferring queen c1, but the book move, according to volume A, section 49, is c4. And that's most frequently answered by king's knight takes the pawn. Filip playing queen's knight to d2, and Bobby king's knight takes the pawn anyway. Knight takes the knight, and knight takes the knight. We have a fairly equal position. You can see the eval bar over here, and it's close to center. Here, king h1 was played by Filip, and that's not well liked by the bot either, getting an inaccuracy, and queen c1 again being the preferred move. What's the real problem with the king to h1? Well, you don't really want your king on an open line of attack. Okay, that difficulty is mitigated by the presence of the king's bishop, but still, the point being that this line of attack could be exploited by black at some juncture. d5, knight f3, knight takes knight, bishop takes bishop, king takes bishop, bishop takes knight, now bishop e6 defending the pawn, queen d4 check, queen f6 interposes, king's rook to d1, creating a super attack on this pawn. King's rook to d8, super defending. Now you might say, well, we've got 3 attackers, 1, 2, 3, and black only has 2 defenders, 1, 2. The problem is you can't take that pawn because the recapture comes with check, speaking of the difficulty of king h1. If the king is still on g1, then this isn't recaptured with check. But if he takes it, we capture with check. You can't capture with the queen because of the rook. And so you just end up a piece ahead. In fact, you'll simplify right away and perhaps even go on an additional attack with c5, etc. So, even though he's got 3 attackers and only 2 defenders, he can't take that pawn. So instead, Filip plays c3, and Bobby plays c6, offers the draw, and Filip accepted the draw. Only 17 moves, and Filip had a 96.6 accuracy. Bobby had a 98.8 accuracy. Filip's single game rating was 2950, and Bobby's was 3100. A short but competitive game with a balanced opening and, of course, incredible accuracy by both players. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time when we have something more substantial, have a great day and play some great chess. Bye now.